So before we move on to the next item on our agenda, on a kind of sad note, I learned yesterday that Rochelle Field's daughter and grandchildren who live in Houston, Texas, have been forced out of their home and have to leave everything behind. And so, oh, sorry. So yesterday I learned that Rochelle Field's daughter and grandchildren who live in Houston, Texas, have been forced out of their home and have to leave everything behind. So I would like us to show our support in addition to prayers for them by collecting a donation. I have an envelope right here. If you can put in cash or check made out to her, and then I can collect all of them. I'll be here tomorrow morning as well. If you want to, for some reason you don't have either your cash or check with you today and you would still like to make a donation, I'll be here tomorrow morning as well. And so then by tomorrow noon, I'll just collect everything. Okay.
For anyone who doesn't happen to recognize the name, everybody should hopefully, but Rochelle is, she works in the central office and she's the one who processes all of our out-of-district paperwork. So she works really hard for our department. Even though she's not a school psych, she's a key member in making us a functional group. So
yeah, she's one of the member of our very incredible information management team. And so I know that many of you have had a lot of help and contact with her throughout the years. So thank you very much. Okay. Now, this year we have a new ESA supervisor in Seattle Public Schools who is here today to talk about his new position, as well as to introduce our new colleagues, career ladder psychologists, as well as strong mentors for this year. So here's Mr. Spencer.
Can you say what your new position is?
Sure.
Mr. Spencer?
So I am supervising all the ESAs this year except for audiologists, which I'll share with my Will Dignite. And part of this is just recognition that we don't really fall under ops exactly, and then
You gotta use bold.
we don't actually just fall under operations, which is how we've been organized previously, right? We have a director for special ed for operations, a director of special ed for school-based services. And so we straddle a number of these spheres, right, where we are more kind of central office supports, but we're embedded in school-based services. And so we're not just compliance, which is, if you look at our historical organization, we've been more slated on that end of the work. It's also recognition that ESA providers, there's a lot of common streams, and historically we've ended up replicating a lot of work. So, the OTs will do something, and then, look, for example, our budget, right? Our budget really, when it comes to whether it's the psych budget or the occupational therapy budget, there's certain set pieces that are a little bit different, but probably 80% of that is the same, right? We all need to ensure we have appropriate technology. We all need to ensure that we have the assessment tools we need. And yes, while physical therapy may have small equipment they need to purchase, if we don't, those are the exceptions to that. And so it's, can we collaborate more together around the things that are all similar, right? Our staffing, our assessment, procurement, those types of processes. It's also that a lot of from the school building end, a lot of information they want from us is very similar. They want to know who their team is staffed at the building, right? They want to know who's my occupational therapist, who's my school psych, who's my so on and so forth, right? They don't want to ask 4 different groups that same information and then get it at different points of time of the year. So some of my work this year, and work with you as well, is how do we coordinate some of these processes so that we have information disseminated on timelines that match, right? So how do we also make sure that our support of school buildings is actually what they're looking for in terms of support centrally? And then, so and we'll go into this a little bit later, we've taken some of the feedback from both school buildings and also from you around how we want to organize some of the supports to better support you and also the buildings in the school. And then second to that is how do we make some of our systems more efficient for what we're trying to achieve. And so kind of transitioning to that, part of that is with our staff, right? I mean, one of the things that I know that we've talked about as a group at various times, and especially with like your team leads and career ladder sites, we've talked about the necessity of good coherent support structures and hiring good people into the role and supporting all of us to do the job. So assumption of competency for all of us. We know how to do our jobs. And then what is preventing you from being able to do the best job that you can do, right? So whereas I think historically, and it's a conversation I had with Vaughn actually at one point in the summer as well, it's, historically we sometimes the focus on compliance has overshadowed some of the other work. And so when we do that, it can feel more like we are restricting, where we're trying to ensure that you do these things correctly, rather than supporting you and supporting buildings and saying, okay, we know that you know how to do these things. Here's these supports if you don't. And then how do we make sure that the things that are impeding your ability to do that work, we are actually addressing, right? If you don't have technology, you don't have the correct assessment tools, how do, our job, my job, or the team lead's job, is to help you do that, or the principal's job is to help you make sure you have the computer technology access, or the assessment tools you need, or access to this person. And so, in that vein, I feel like last year did some work around our hiring processes, made really clear what we're looking for in terms of our staff here, in terms of adding to our teams. And so with that, we have 7 new psychologists that we've added to our department this year. And so we'll start with there. We have Amy, so if you could just say hi. Okay.
That's
Yes.
Stand up.
Oh, I can stand up.
Let's stand up. Let's do
We're no longer allowed to call you the intern.
We broke up the interns. We're
You guys aren't even sitting near each other.
I know,
You're
we broke
messing
it up.
with me.
Amy, if you could share a little bit of about yourself, maybe what school you'll be at.
Okay, so I'm at Catherine Blaine and BF Day. I just graduated, so feel free to give me any advice possible under the sun. What else am I supposed to talk about?
That's it.
Okay. That was my mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So supportive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I call him Papa Bear.
And then we have Teresa.
No, you're not.
Only new.
Oh, they are new Teresa.
I actually met the other one this morning. Yeah.
Teresa with an H.
So I'm going to be at McClure, the summer school in Queen Anne Elementary.
Kevin.
I'm at MLK, interview at Peaceville.
And say kind of where you're coming from.
You went to Seattle Public Schools K-12, dude. Own that. How many people can say that? We have a school psychologist from the southeast that grew up. Come on.
And we got I was from right away.
Okay, well he went to. I can't remember the elementary, but you went to Mercer and you went to Rainier Beach, right?
No.
I'm just making it up. See, you didn't say it, so I can just make it up.
I went to Mercer, I went to Cleveland, and I went to Manhattan.
I was 33% accurate.
We have Liz.
I will be at Van Asselt Elementary Preschool and Interagency. I was an intern last year, like Kevin. I'm excited. Hi. I'm Morel. I'm at Jean Adams, Roosevelt, and Nathan Hale, and I came from New York City this summer, and I was working in a private school. So.
Scott.
I'm Scott Ritchie. I'm at Olympic Hills and Licton Springs, which I learned is not physically located in Licton Springs. I'm coming from San Diego Unified, where I've mainly been at the secondary level.
then Lauren.
We really doubled up on names.
Yeah.
I'm Lauren. I'm at 3 elementary schools, North Beach, Laurelhurst, and Greenwood. And I just moved from New York City too, and I worked in the public schools for 5 years.
And who told you to come to us?
Mallory.
They would only be happier if you brought her back to them.
Yeah.
We tried.
Carrie Ann.
It'll happen.
And then
Go
next,
back.
and then next, I just want to reiterate, we have career ladder psychologists. We also have, we've conducted interviews for our master position, and we're in the process of that, so we'll have a master and then 4 career ladder psychs. And we'll go over that process in a little bit as well, but yes?
Could you tell us what the master position is?
You're a ninja.
I could. So the master position is really to guide and lead that career ladder work, and so it requires experience as a career ladder psychologist, career ladder ESA, to apply for that position, and then it's to really make sure that we have a coordinated plan with our PD development. So the work that the career ladders are doing, it's a kind of evolution and extension of that work. So it's more the coordination component and leadership of that. Yes?
Will there be a master for each ESA, like how it rotates type?
Absolutely. So they're already generated. It's just that there aren't sufficient individuals within the other ESA groups to be eligible for those positions at this point in time. So our present career ladder sites are Vaughn, Alina, Katie, and Greg. So you can stand.
Greg's not here. Greg's in some other country. I forgot.
There you go. Well,
should always just default to Thailand if somebody's not here.
And then we also have STAR mentors. So STAR mentors are for those psychologists who are new and can benefit from some mentorship support. They can connect so that they have somebody to connect to. And so our STAR mentors this year are Teresa Frazier, Tiffany Kuhn, Carrie, and Judy. So,
Carrie Monson.
Carrie Monson.
Amy will be your mentee. Okay, I will encourage STAR mentors and mentees to meet up during lunchtime. Tiffany Kuhn will have Liz Jones. Carrie Monson will have Kevin. And Julie will have Mirelle.
And then we have one intern and 5 practicum students. And anyone want to go over that?
Well, yeah, we have Lisa here. If you want to stand. And she'll be with Kama this year, and then hopefully getting some experiences from some other people at various levels. So, welcome. And which program are you coming from?
UW.
Yay!
Woo!
And then finally, I want to do a real brief on our kind of departmental leadership, since there's probably some questions around that. So Michaela has departed to Clover Park, and so then Wyatt sent an email saying that there would be clarification around the 3 directors that are, rather than the executive director. So they reorganized into 3 special ed directors rather than the executive director and 2 director format that had been advertised before. And so right now the positions have been hired for, and so we have Trish Campbell still with us, and she will be doing school-based support. We have Nicole Fitch, who will be intersecting also on the school-based side. She comes to us from Highline as a principal, so she has a principal background, so she'll be doing a lot of coaching support with principals of school buildings. And then we have, and so the regional supervisors will be operating under her supervision. And then coming to us from Tacoma is Beth Mills, who was doing compliance work in that in the district over there. So sort of Michelle Landwehr's job down in Tacoma. And so she'll be fulfilling the director of operations role. And that will be more tightly organized, I think, this year around mostly just operations, right? So this won't be all of what Michaela is doing, but it'll be more focused around some of the things that she was overseeing. So state and federal timelines and criteria for that, any sort of grants pieces, budget development, budget processes for that. So her work will be really around that component. So I think I do foresee kind of our work intersecting all three of these lanes. I would like it to be, and based on where we're going as a district, probably more on less on the compliance end. We know what we need to do for compliance. More on probably the school-based services and supports, the MTSS structures, how do we support school teams and buildings. So it'll likely be more interface with Nicole and Trish on those lanes. Compliance components, absolutely, but I think that our intersect will probably be through Michelle or me through Beth. There might be something that comes and we get clarity around that. I'll definitely pass and relay that to you.
So whereas Michaela used to be like our supervisor, now you're basically our supervisor?
I am. It's part of it was I think what Michaela's doing was so much, and it wasn't really super. We all know it wasn't. She was doing all of it, and then they created this other position, but didn't clarify exactly where her role ended and Trish's began, or Carrie's was, and so I would like for them to provide, and I don't have absolute clarity right now, is where are these lanes exactly, right? And I did ask that information before this, and we
can find out in a meeting tomorrow.
Yes, so we don't quite know yet, but the moment we do, we'll provide that. So, but to my understanding, I know they advertise this position specifically, whereas before they did not. They specifically advertised the position as a director for operations. And the individual they hired into it comes to us with very much a compliance operations background. So.
Have there been changes in program specialists and area supervisors?
There have been, and I
lot.
think, are we going over that a little bit, or do you want the other chart?
They haven't given us the final chart because they've moved people.
We don't have a chart yet.
Okay.
Plan is for
Yeah. So there is a little bit of change within that. So let me go over. You'll get information on this, so you'll know who to connect to for this. There's some major changes district-wide. If you aren't aware of that already, you probably aren't because you just came back from summer. District-wide, there's some organizational changes where the educational directors, right, the EDs for the regions before have reorged themselves into a combination between regionally bound and leveled. So they're doing like elementary by pseudo region, right? So
we finally went to a regional ourselves.
Right, but that's okay. Our department is not changing how we're organized right now, and we're if you really think about how we're organized in terms of support, right? And so for support purposes, we want to, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but we're going to allow for both pieces. We're going to have structures for the levels, right? Because obviously, if there's a high school specific issue, you still want to talk to your colleagues and supports at high school or elementary or preschool. But in terms of teaming, vertical alignment makes a lot more sense, right? The students who are going to be moving from elementary to middle school to high school are going to be going from Denny to South. They're not, the conversation around how do we support the student moving from 8th grade to 9th grade, those are going to naturally happen within kind of the Denny South feeder alignment, right? So I think we need to have both types of support structures in place. And for kind of the immediate, how do we support each other? It's a little bit easier. We're proximally located, right? So if I'm at the school that's within 2 minutes from the other, I can collaborate a lot easier with that psychologist and meet with stuff than I can if I have to cut across half the city, right? So we'll give you that information. To be honest, when they printed it out and gave it to me, that list, like they made the sheet that I used to use like 3 times as long as it is now. So now it's no longer on the standard like letter paper. Now it's got to be on one of those like super long things. So we'll get that to you. In terms of regional supervisors, the major change that's occurred was, besides myself, they moved Joe Burdens from Northwest to Southwest to support. So just know that. And then hired in Mike from, he's coming to us from Mercer Island, and he is going to be the supervisor for the Northwest. And so just, It's like Bylsma, it's like BYL and something.
Is it gonna be
I can't pronounce
Just walk around there and yell Mike.
Joe was
it.
also.
No, yeah, Northeast, sorry.
What's his name, Mike what?
Mike, B.
Mike B.
Yeah.
See, now we
I'll
have
get
something
that
to put in the first weekly psych report.
Correct. Teresa Swanson, still Northwest. And then there's been some shifts in the program specialists as well. So Amanda McNaughton, who is supporting Southwest, is going to Central Region to support.
Be Lord.
And because alongside with Elaine is staying there in Central Region. And they hired in a new program specialist for the Southwest region from Southeast, and I cannot recall her name at the moment. So that will be provided to you. Any immediate questions that I can try to answer? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I realized we didn't introduce ourselves as team leads. We have new people, so I led an ESA induction last week that several of the new hires were able to go to. So they met me, but they haven't met the other team leads. But I'll just kind of steal the show and introduce myself. I'm Michelle Dorman. I'm now the Northeast Region team lead, and I'll be at Ballard High School this year, which I'm pretty excited about, in the cold. And so it'll be I'll now have experience from elementary to high school. I still got to get that pre-K experience at some point. But yeah. So Ashley.
What? Oh, I'm Ashley. I'm not the only Ashley, but I'm the only Ashley that's hot, right? I am going into my 5th year at Washington Middle School, and my 3rd year as a team lead. And the other little announcement I forgot, for those of you that voted, I think it was in June, I've slept since then, Anne was here, we were elected, we are yet again Area 1A reps for Wasatch, so officially.
We were talking.
Oh, shocking. What? Oh, Southeast. So of course there are 5 regions and 4 teams. So Central Region got broken into 2. So the Meany feeder pattern went up to the Northeast, and then of course Washington feeder pattern. We are all in the Southeast. And I was saying that Anne Marie and I were re-elected the Area 1A Wasatch representatives. The end.
Which, by the way, the fall conference is in Sancadia this year, and there's people coming from speakers. We have a lot of speakers that are coming that we've recruited from the UMass to come and speak, and it's close by. But if you're interested in going, it's the first weekend of November, I believe.
Finally, November, not October.
I believe it's the first weekend of November, and we're limited as far as the numbers because the space is not very large. So if you're interested in going, you might want to look into that sooner rather than later. Even if you have it in the back of your mind that you might want to go, you might want to make a reservation sooner rather than later. And Sancadia, if you're not from Washington, is like an hour and a half from Seattle. So you could feasibly drive there the first day, Thursday, and then only have to stay Thursday night and Friday night. And you can stay, Sancadia is very isolated, and it's going to appear as though you can only stay in Sancadia, the resort. There are hotels that are smaller and hotels that are smaller in Cle Elum, which is 10 minutes away. So you have other residential options, as well as I'm sure there are a ton of Airbnb options, because Sancadia is also they have a bunch of different houses up there too. So you can get half the people together.
Thank you. My name is Pei-Ling Su, and this is my 3rd year as a team lead. This year I'll be the Northwest Region team lead. And it's going to be my 9th year, I think, at Providence.
I have to sit down and think about it, right?
Yes.
We're together.
Hi, I'm William Wood. I am the team lead for Southwest, and I'll be at Fairmont Park, and then I split some time at Viewlands.
move to the more interesting topic, MTSS. Actually, I tried to put those less interesting stuff in the morning, more interesting stuff in the afternoon, so that we'll be all motivated to stay awake in the afternoon. So last year, the district's MTSS leadership team developed a whole child approach to provide a multi-tier system of support. After the morning break today, the Director of Student Services, Carrie Henson, will be here to present to us the implementation of MTSS in Seattle Public Schools. Now, I would like us to think about the role of school psychologists in the multi-tier support system in general. So to help us to explore the possibilities, we are going to watch a few segments of an interview of a practicing school psychologist in the Hershey, Pennsylvania school district.
Really excited today to be able to speak to Dr. Jason Peterson. He is both a national